Charles Tannock, transition period, how long can it last? Today some MEP said it can be up to 20 years, as long as needed to have a genuine, comprehensive trade agreement with the UK.
Well, I mean, it's clear from the position papers that I've read that the United Kingdom government is seeking a 2-year transition period in which clearly single market and customs union rules will apply. There is some debate about the European Court of Justice and whether or not Britain will be able to negotiate or conclude its own free trade agreements during that period. But I've heard nobody talk about figures of 20 years. There has been some speculation 2 years might not be enough. And others have talked up to 5 years, but that is a ridiculous length of time. And then we might as well stay in the European Union. You know, obviously I'd be happy with that. I'd far rather we did stay in the European Union. I think Brexit is a national tragedy, a selfish and destructive act. I have nothing to say in favour of Brexit, but I don't think anybody is suggesting the transitional period would last very long. It's clear from the point of view of the Brexiteers that Britain will become a rule taker during that period in which legislation will apply and we'll have no say in the making of new legislation and new rules. So it's kind of the worst of all worlds, really. So I think that's a ridiculous comment, 20 years. 2 years is the figure that everybody accepts.
Do you think that within this period it would be possible to have a new trade agreement with the UK, or this transition period is a hidden form, sort of indefinite transition period is a hidden form to keep the United Kingdom de facto within the European Union?
Well, I mean, the United Kingdom won't be in the EU in the transition period. It's quite clear that the exit date is the 29th of March 2019. It's an extension of time in order to give the government and business enough time to negotiate the free trade agreement and to give some security and certainty to British business and investors in Britain that there won't be a cliff edge in a little bit more than a year and a half from now, or less than a year and a half, 16 months from now. So I think it's intended really to reassure everybody. And it's not intended in any way to keep Britain locked in. Otherwise, if that were the case, the United Kingdom government would have asked to stay in the single market and the customs union. I had hoped they would do that. They haven't. They've ruled it out, wrongly in my view. I'm very critical of that. I would be perfectly happy with having a kind of as close as possible economic arrangement where Britain stays in the single market, but it's absolutely clear from the Lancaster House speech, the Florence speech, that Britain is leaving both the single market and the customs union, and for 2 years will tolerate a transitional arrangement in which the rules will apply. It's not entirely clear whether the ECJ will still have jurisdiction, but this will all be decided, of course, after March of next year, when they have to decide on the phase 2 negotiations for the final withdrawal agreement.
All right. So, what would be the situation if there would be no deal? Would it be a drama, or still functioning under in the framework of WTO? It's a feasible thing.
Well, there's a big debate about this amongst experts. I mean, I personally think it would be a disaster, a train crash. WTO rules alone. There's only 2 or 3 countries in the world which have no additional arrangements bilaterally, multilaterally, protocols on non-tariff barriers. I think Mauritania is one of them. I think North Korea is another. But I know Mauritania is one of them. A handful of countries rely just on WTO. It would be totally inappropriate for a major economy, the 6th biggest economy in the world, the United Kingdom, to be reliant on such an arrangement, because the EU 27 represent 45% of our external trade. If you include the free trade agreements that the United Kingdom enjoy through being members of the European Union right now, it's more than 60% of Britain's trade. So having no longer access to both the 27 and the rest of the world in countries like Chile, Mexico, shortly it will be Japan, New Zealand, Australia, CETA with Canada. If we lose all these markets or free trade access, tariff-free access, it will be an economic shock to Britain, and there'll be a big price. We've seen estimates of up to 3 or 4% of GDP in terms of contraction if that were to happen. I think there will be a deal of some sort. I don't think it's going to be the kind of cake and eat it whereby Britain has no freedom of movement, has no ECJ, makes no contribution to the budget, and yet enjoys the free trade we have now, because that would be unacceptable to the EU 27. They would regard that as having all the advantage of being in the economic bloc with none of the duties or obligations. So I think we might get something like a simple Canada, an ordinary free trade agreement on industrial finished products. It won't include services, or very little in services, and I think Britain will be the loser. But we have obviously 3.5 years to work this all out now. Personally, I've said for some time now it would be better if Britain had asked for an extension of Article 50 rather than a transitional deal. We should have stayed in the European Union and had a couple more years in which to sort it all out.